Hey y'all, welcome to episode 5 of Custom Card Reviews. Let's jump right in, starting off with our Patreon supporters on the CCG family tier. Thank you for your support, Dogga. This is Dark Hole Device, a continuous spell. When activated, you can destroy one monster you control, and if you do, add one Dark Hole or one monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dark Hole Device once per turn. Monsters cannot activate their effects when they are destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, if a monster or monsters is normal or special summon except during the damage step, you can discard one Dark Hole, destroy all monsters on the field. So this card is not only a Dark Hole searcher, but combos very well with Dark Hole Dragon, and makes me think that Dark Hole could be a pretty cool card to craft an archetype around, kind of like Mythical Space Typhoon more recently when that was released. Anyway, I think all the effects here are actually incredibly well thought out. You can go straight to Dark Hole or go to Dark Hole Dragon, which, since you destroyed a monster of yours, can let you special summon itself, since it doesn't have to be in there in the hand to special summon itself from the hand, since this card would destroy it, then search Dark Hole Dragon, so that works out. And then Dark Hole Dragon itself nabs you Dark Hole in the end phase, which then combos back with this card, which allows you to discard it to destroy all monsters on the field when a monster is normal special summon, and Dark Hole Dragon itself is impervious to being destroyed by card effects. And then the second effect is a nice little nifty buff to Dark Hole as well, being able to block up any monsters that would trigger their effects upon destruction. Look, I don't have anything bad to say about this card. I think, like I said, it could be the start of a Dark Hole archetype. It's very well thought out. All the effects work in tandem with the very few Dark Hole related cards that we have out there. So this, my friends, is the rare 10 out of 10. Very well done, Dogga, and your reward is getting a second card reviewed back to back. So let's jump to Volcano Golem, a pendulum monster with the effect of the pendulum effect. You cannot pendulum summon except from the extra deck. This effect cannot be negated. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. Once per turn during your standby phase, apply one of these effects. This card's owner chooses the effect. Either take 1,000 damage or return this card to the owner's hand. As far as the monster effect goes, cannot be normal summoned or set. Must either be pendulum summoned or special summoned by a card effect. You can only control one Volcano Golem. If this card is pendulum summoned, each player takes 1,000 damage. You can place this card from your hand in your opponent's pendulum zone by tributing one or two of their face-up cards from their spell and trap zones and or field zones. And if you do, your opponent loses 500 life points for each monster card tributed this way. You cannot set cards the turn you place this card in either player's pendulum zone. So another cleverly designed card, the spell trap killer version of Lava Golem, though specifically only works on face-up cards and then any card in the field zone. Probably format dependent given how many decks are using face-up back row, but still a neat potential side option. Only knock here is the word count, which tends to be the case with pendulums. This one is in the 140s, but otherwise I like how the pendulum and monster effects work in tandem, and I give this an 8 out of 10. This submission is by Ichiro. This is Magical Musketeer Marshal. This card is a fusion monster comprised of a Magical Musketeer monster and one Light Fiend monster. Must first be either fusion summon or special summon from your extra deck by banishing the above cards from your field or grave. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can put one Magical Musket spell trap card that is not a continuous card from your grave to the bottom of the deck. So place one Magical Musket spell trap that is not a continuous card from your grave to the bottom of the deck. This effect becomes that effect when that card is activated. When this card is sent to the grave by your opponent, special summon 2 level 4 or lower Magical Musketeer monsters from your grave or banishment with different names. When this card is sent to the grave by your opponent, not semicolon. So as far as this card goes, the intent here is obviously to reuse and recycle those spells and traps that the archetype has that are otherwise, I think, all hard once per turn. And frankly, none of them, at least the existing ones, are so devastating that would make this effect broken. This is one of those effects that is dependent on other cards to determine how broken or balanced it is. So that said, the most future-proof way to make this effect would itself to have a hard once per turn, or at least max number of times per turn, kind of like the Gate Guardian fusions. I'm not too crazy about floating right back into the materials. Like, the condition is super easy to me. It just has to be sent to the grave but by the opponent to be able to get back 2 materials, and then you can go straight back into this guy. I'll reference the Gate Guardian fusions again, which is more of what I would expect when you get a material back. In the case of the Gate Guardian, you get 1 back. But if you insist on 2, then the condition just has to be more stringent than just being sent to the grave by the opponent. So something like being destroyed would be sufficient. But overall, I'll give this a 7 out of 10. This submission is by Sirknight JCB. This is Dark Chimera Clad Utopia Ray V. Materials are 3 level 5 monsters. This card's name is always treated as number C39 Utopia Ray V. While this card is equipped with a DZW- monster card, this card gains 2600 attack. Once per turn, if you activate the effect of a DZW- monster card that is equipped to this card, you can double this card's attack. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, activate one of these effects. Either equip one ZW- or one spellcaster monster that mentions number C39 Utopia or AV from your deck, extra deck to this card, as if it were equipped by its own effect. Or target one card your opponent controls, destroy, then if it was a monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. So first thing, word count at 129 words, gotta find something to cut. Overall, this card is doing a lot with the burn and the super attack boost. I think leaning into the attack boost thing is cool. One thing I will say is that Chimera Clad is the only DZW card out there, which would trigger the attack doubling effect of this card. But Clad's effect only triggers if this card were to attack a monster that is not destroyed in battle by it. And while this guy is equipped with Clad, its own attack becomes 5200. And so how often are you going to be attacking something that isn't going to be destroyed by battle, except things that are in defense mode and have impervious to battle destruction, which in that case wouldn't really matter that you're able to attack it again anyway. So really, like, I feel like the moments where you get to attack something that's in attack position that won't be destroyed by this guy that's already at 5200 attack are gonna be hard to come by. So maybe find, or really just something to think about, whether that be a different effect of this card or something else in the Utopia repertoire that allows you to be able to really take advantage of how this card works in tandem with Chimera Clad. So I'll give this a 6 out of 10. This submission is by Alex. This is Thor, Overlord of 9 Realms. 3 or more effect monsters to bring out this Link 6. This card can be Link Summon or Special Summon from the extra deck by attributing 1, the True God of Thunder Thor, from your side of the field, unaffected by other cards' effects. When this card is summoned, you can equip as many mythical weapon equipped spells from your hand, deck, or grave, then banish that many cards from your opponent's hand, field, or grave. Once per turn, you can target one effect monster in either grave equipped to this card. This monster gains 1000 attack for every card equipped to it. Up to 3 times per turn. Quick effect, you can target one monster equipped to this card. This card can activate that monster's effects in addition to its own. So this is just really hard to assess because it looks to be a part of a greater archetype, so I have no idea what the God of Thunder Thor looks like or any of these mythical weapon equipped spells. I would be weary with unaffected by other cards' effects, blanket protection, unless getting this guy out truly is deserving of that, and it is a Link 6. But again, that cheat out effect just makes me wonder how easy it is to really cheat it out. So not much to say here without really knowing much about the archetype. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. This submission is by Zearrak. This is Gowther, Inquisitor of the Seven Sins. Maybe I'm saying it right, maybe it's Gowther. Anyway, you special summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 card. While this card is face up on the field, your opponent must reveal their hand to you. Once per turn, you can send the top card or cards from your deck to the grave and reveal the same number of set cards on your opponent's field. If you control Meliodas, Leader of the Seven Sins, monsters you control gain attack equal to their level times 300. You can only use each effect of this, you would specify the name, Gowther, Inquisitor of the Seven Sins, once per turn. So based on the context provided, this card is based on the 7 Deadly Sins anime, and specifically the character Gowther, or Gowther, who has the ability to read minds. So to that end, the effects are fitting. All I wonder about this card is how easily it could fit into other archetypes, because it's very generic, easy to bring out, where they can make use of that hand knowledge, then use the body, the level 5 machine light body, for further combos that, now that they're aware of the hand traps and the back row that the opponent has. So I think it's asking for trouble, as is generally the case for cards that let you see your opponent's hand, and this one also lets you see your opponent's back row. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Next up by Valdo, this is Forbidden Choice. Normal spell, select 5 Forbidden 1 cards from your deck and show them to your opponent. Your opponent selects 1 card among them, add that card to your hand or special summon it to your field and send the remaining card to the grave. Card sent to your grave by this effect cannot be moved to a different place until your next turn. So this is basically an archetype-specific painful choice, and there's really 2 self-imposed restrictions here. One, there's only 5 specific Forbidden 1 cards, so if you've already gone through 1 or have 1 in your hand, this card becomes dead. Now with that said, you have previously submitted another Exodia support card which did have Forbidden 1 in its name, and I would imagine there's a reason Konami has avoided giving any card other than the 5 pieces Forbidden 1 in its name. So I would caution here that you don't name anything else with Forbidden 1 in it, or if you insist on that to make this card a bit more alive, then change this to 5 Forbidden 1 cards with different names. As for the other restriction, it's not being able to move those cards from the grave until the end of your next turn, so you can't just dump all the cards and then Backup Soldier or Dark Factory or what have you, all of the pieces back to your hand. That said, you only really do need to survive 1 of your opponent's turn to then be able to start getting cards back from the graveyard. So it's just something to be careful about. There's probably a reason why painful choice type effects don't exist, even if they are archetype specific. I feel like it's just opening the door to be abused. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. But as with your previous card and with this one too, great job on doing your own artwork that looks amazing as always. Next up, we have a joke card submitted by Shiny Starmie. This is Screw the Rules, I'm the main antagonist. You can only activate this card if you're the main antagonist of a series. You can activate this card during the final battle. I don't know what that means in the context of an actual duel, but it's funny, at least in reference to how anime battles might work. Your opponent can activate card effects in response to this card's activation and effect. If this card is sent to the grave or banished, add this card to your hand. If the first two conditions are met, the following effect is activated. Say the words, "Screw the rules, I'm the main antagonist." When activating this card, you automatically win the duel. If your opponent has a plot armor card, it automatically activates upon this card's resolution. So the effect here is mildly amusing to me because it's a picture of Kaiba, and "Screw the rules" obviously a slogan from the abridged, but Kaiba himself is never the main antagonist of the series, or really even any season, save for the few chapters of Death Tea in the early manga. So it kind of seems odd that we're combining Kaiba with main antagonist shenanigans. Anywho, I'm mostly just interested to see what plot armor looks like, so I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10 for the reason that Kaiba is not actually a main antagonist. This submission is by DuDono. This is Omajinai Elevated Plane. I'm not sure how to say that. Monsters on the field can attack while in defense position. If they do, use their defense for damage calculation. When a monster is normal, special summon, inflict 500 damage to the summoning player. Once per turn, the turn player can discard one card, special summon one tuner from their deck. Then, if they summon a normal monster this way, they can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from their hand or grave. You can only activate one of this card per turn. So this is support intended for Space Omajinai, I think, Usagi, hence the shared name and the extra buff on that third effect, where if you summon a normal tuner, which the Usagi card is, then you get the extra summon from of a level 4 or lower monster from your hand or grave. Probably would become generic support for really any synchro-based deck, since it can grab literally any tuner. I know it's in your note that it's meant to balance things out so your opponent can use the effect as well, but just given how fast the game is and how few decks are have dedicated tuners these days, I'd say it would just make more sense to discard and special summon a normal monster as opposed to any tuner, because I think that's just going to make this card more useful for other decks rather than the own archetype that it's supposed to be in. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. This submission by Venomzilla 1. This is Unto Death, Do Worlds Apart. Normal spell card. If your opponent negated a card or effect this turn, this card's effect and activation cannot be negated. If your opponent activated a monster effect this turn, neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. Negate the effects of monsters that are in the same column this card was activated, and then both players banish any monsters they control that are in the same column this card was activated and face down. Neither player can summon or activate the effects of monsters with the same name as the monsters banished by this card's effect for the rest of the duel. You can only resolve the effects of Unto Death, Do Worlds Apart once per duel. Since this card has 118 words, the easiest place to cut for me is to get rid of either the first or second effect, since there is at least some redundancy there. I don't think you need both of them, honestly. I get that it makes the card even harder to block, but honestly, just again, for the sake of cutting down words here, I would get rid of one of those clauses and I think you'd be fine. Otherwise, I like this card as a second going card. It's like it has some pros and cons when compared to something like Evenly Matched or Dark Ruler No More. So overall, I think it's fine. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. This submission is by Skyslasher. This is Dark Influence of the Core. This card is always treated as a Shadow card. Discard one Shadow card and add one Shadow spell or trap or one Sinister Shadow games from your deck to your hand. You can only use one Dark Influence of the Core per turn. I'm guessing this discard is not meant to be a cost, so you would want to put a clause here that says discard one Shadow card, and if you do, add one Shadow spell, or then add one Shadow spell or trap, and either one would be fine since Shadow monsters don't miss timing since they are if optional effects and not when optional effects. I know this is a hard once per turn, but even so, from the last few years of what Konami does with cards that can search themselves, they will not allow them to search themselves. So you'd add a clause here that says add one Shadow spell or trap, or add one Shadow spell or trap except Dark Influence of the Core, or one Sinister Shadow games from your deck to your hand. Again, it has a hard once per turn, so it's not like you can use it every turn, but cards like this tend to not be able to search themselves, at least in the last few years as they have been designed. But overall, I think this is a great buff for the deck. Simple, straightforward. I give it a 7 out of 10. Next up by James, we have Red Dragon Archfiend Caesar. This is a level 12 synchro comprised of 2 tuners plus 1 non-tuner Dark Dragon synchro monster. When this card is synchro summoned and a Red Dragon Archfiend monster is banished or in the grave, you can activate this effect for the rest of this turn. While this card is face up on the field, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects on the field unless they pay life points equal to the number of tuners in your grave times 800. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. If this card destroys a monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one level 8 or lower Dark Dragon synchro monster in your grave, special summon it. So I'm guessing this was an attempt to create a more balanced King Calamity, so instead of an outright Floodgate, it's pretty hefty life point cost to activate effects, and it then has the additional condition of needing a Red Dragon Archfiend monster banished or in the grave, so other decks can't just abuse it. You have to go through the process of bringing out one of your Red Dragon Archfiend monsters and not just Crimson Dragon this guy out. Honestly, I feel like this still is waiting to get busted. I would, at the very least, lower the 800 down to something more reasonable, like maybe 500 at most, and or only apply it to when your opponent activates a monster effect, so it's not a full-on Floodgate, because that, I mean, when you bring this guy out, I guess through the archetypal method, it would probably put 3 tuners in your grave, which would be a 2400 burn each time, which I think is just too much. So I think it's easy to balance out, and I do like the attempt to bring King Calamity a notch down. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Next up by Leon12345, we have Trap Change, a continuous trap. To activate, discard 1 trap card from your hand or deck, and all trap cards in the grave become the same type as the card you discarded. Cannot be destroyed by opponent card effects while Uriah, Lord of the Searing Flames, is on your side of the field. So I don't think you can discard cards from the deck. I would just change the wording to say send 1 trap card from your hand or deck. And then as far as type is concerned, I'm guessing you mean normal continuous counter. I don't know if that terminology has been used. I'm having trouble thinking of a card that references the type of traps and spells as continuous, normal, etc., etc. Those things are just usually specified, so I would just specify what you mean by that. Otherwise, it's decent Uriah support. I mean, it's really just buffing Uriah up since it gains 1000 attack for every continuous trap in your grave. I don't really think it has much synergy with the existing Sacred Beast support, so I would look into giving more. I mean, you have a lot of room to work with here, and honestly, there's a lot that you can work with the existing cards, and since the Sacred Beasts themselves are a bit outdated, being able to buff them even more than just with an attack boost would be perfectly fine with me from a balance standpoint. So I'm going to give this card a 4 out of 10. And finally, by Seaker, we have That Nameless Change That Never Could. This card is always treated as a... So I was looking at this, I'm like, is this supposed to be a typo? Is this a reference to something? I don't even know how to say this. That Everwood, I'm guessing that's Everwood. So this card is always treated as an Everwood card. Cannot be normal summon or said. Must be a special summon from your hand or grave by placing 2 pendulum monsters on your field into your spell traps known as continuous traps. Pendulum monsters placed this way gain their pendulum effects. Neither player can declare this card's name while it is on the field. You can reveal this card in your hand and declare 1 spell card name that Everwood. Don't know what that means. It's declare 1 spell card name that is a That Everwood card. I'm not really sure what that means. Show this card into the deck and add 1 card from your deck to your hand with the same name as the declared name. You can only use this effect of That Nameless Change That Never Could once per turn. You can only summon 1 That Nameless Change That Never Could per turn. So this card is, again, a lot of words here, and another one of those cards that's part of an archetype, so it's hard to fully judge, though I don't think we really need to rely too much on the cards that we can't see to really get an idea of. This card is basically the searcher of the deck. The notion of treating pendulums as traps is definitely intriguing since it turns their effect into spell speed too. I think that has definitely some use cases outside of its own archetype, but if your archetype is pendulum based, then maybe there's a reason for why you have that effect in there. But overall, an interesting card. A lot of words, just can't fully assess it again because it's part of a greater archetype. I'm going to give it, though, a 7 out of 10. So that does it for this week's episode. As always, you can submit your cards with the link in the description. You can submit competitive, casual, and joke cards, as you saw at least one of each in this week's episode. And while you're waiting for your card to be reviewed, you can join the Discord for all things Yu-Gi-Oh!, as well as finding a custom card community to give and receive feedback on custom cards. And then if you are interested in supporting the channel and or getting priority review on your custom card submissions, please look into joining the CCG family tier on either Patreon or YouTube memberships. Those links are in the description as well, and I will catch you all on the next episode.